Good morning, everybody. Can you hear? Is that better? We should all speak up. Well, good morning and welcome to everyone. My name is Silberfeld. I'm the board chair of the Friends of Big Bear Valley. And it's an honor to be here with you. It's wonderful to have all of you here with us. We have a great program here for you in the next little while. And let me begin by introducing Pastor Nick Barrett, who is a friend of Sandy Steers and has some opening remarks for us. Nick?
First of all, thank you all for coming today. This is a great day. I've got a lot to say in a small period of time. We're dealing with some wind. My notes are here. I often don't speak from notes, but I have a short period, and I really want to bring this message to honor Sandy and the life she led. The eagles are referenced 33 times in the Bible, so there's an awful lot to say about them. Isaiah 40:31 says, "But those who trust in the Lord will renew their strength. They'll soar on wings like eagles. They will not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." 2 Corinthians 4:16, "Therefore do not lose heart. Outwardly we're wasting away, but inwardly we're being renewed." So I want to speak it. There's a sense of renewal here. There's 3 facets in this message. First, the woman, Sandy, then the vision, then the void. We're talking about a life celebration here. So even though there's a void, there is a strong message with that. Sandy was a biologist from UCLA. She had a great career. She worked with NASA. Her background was a tech company in San Diego, but in 2000, roughly late 2000, she gave all that up to come here to Big Bear. She made Big Bear her home. As you can see, it's such a beautiful place. But very soon after, she grew to love the community. She grew to love the ecosystem. She knew the value of this place intricately, more than anybody else I've met. She assembled a group of people, a small group of neighbors, just a small band of people in 2001, Friends of Fawnskin. Sandy lived just down the road near the Eagle's Nest, Jackie and Shadow's nest. And at that time, in 2001, she realized that she could do a lot more for the community. So it became Friends of Big Bear Valley, the Friends of Big Bear Valley that operate the camera now. And her vision grew from then. And then in 2012, to give you a bit of a background, the first bald eagle nest was spotted. Yes, the one we all look at on the camera now. It was spotted there in Fawnskin, and that was the home of Ricky and Lucy, the first nesting pair here in the valley. And it was thought that Jackie was the female eagle that we now watch, that those were her parents. So very soon after that, this transformation led to the camera, a Friends of Big Bear nonprofit. It was an amazing seed, if you like. It was an amazing visionary, and this really represents Sandy, a visionary that brought what was going to be the whole world together. It started off with 200 people watching the camera. I was one of them in 2018. The chat was 24 hours a day. There were people from Belgium, people from all over the world joining in and sharing. Last year, we had 100,000 people on live cam. So the seed of this nest, I call it the nest of love, because that's really what it is. It's a unifying bond. This is really Sandy's greatest message. We love a being, or we love life. Every time I met her, I was drawn to her energy, just to her candid nature, the way she lived to express nature like no one else I've met, to people, to children. And her passion really was colleges. Her passion was the next generation. She realized that this nest was far more than a nest of sticks. It's touched people worldwide. Everybody comes to the nest for different reasons, but we all leave forever changed in some way. It touches every human soul in a different way. I listen in on chat quite often because I love to hear people, what they share, what they experience, and people that have been in hospital beds, people that have been paraplegic have had renewal. And this is why I spoke to you about renewal and hope and not growing weary. Children that may have had backgrounds that have limited them, that became touched by the eagles. And to piggyback on what this seed means, it started on a miracle, because on the 23rd and 27th of January, the first clutch of eggs were laid. For whatever reason, Jackie and Shadow were not focused at that time, so they were taken by ravens, and they only get taken by ravens if Jackie and Shadow aren't there. They're the cleanup crew, but they cause Jackie and Shadow no problems. They're part of the ecosystem. They're their neighbors, if you like, just like owls and hawks. They all live in unity. So about a month to regroup and have a second clutch of eggs. And this is very rare. And I'm going to speak into that. I was fortunate with my last meeting with Sandy was on the 27th of December. We spoke for about an hour. This time it was on Zoom. And to have that clutch, I actually arranged this trip to Big Bear on Friday. Good Friday was actually the 3rd of April, not knowing there'd be a second clutch. So I actually arrived on Good Friday when the first pip, that's a sign of the egg beginning to hatch, the external crack, if you like. And the following morning, I was by the nest. Sandy was laid, and then the following morning after that, Easter Sunday Lunar, without even me knowing. But I've had a passion for Sandy and a passion for her purpose. You know, I've run church ministries. I have a unity ministry online now, but the passion really is a love that draws us to this nest. The passion that Sandy shares with us today is love. So the woman was the lady who had the career. The vision is the visionary, Sandy. It cannot be replaced. But her heart on the 27th of December very much was to preserve this ecosystem. During the COVID close down in 2021, we went to the San Bernardino Council office. I met Sandy there again. We assembled at 8 o'clock in the morning just to speak our own 2 minutes of what we were going to say at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I met her again many times each year at this outdoor adventure, but we used to text in between, and we encourage each other about the season, about people, about the nest, about the impact. She was very concerned about the impact it was making on people and about respecting all of nature. This is not just about the eagle's nest, it's about North Shore of Big Bear, which is the only unspoiled place. Eagles can be urban, but Jackie and Shadow picked where they picked because they didn't want to be urban. And we often pick quiet places because we don't want to be in New York or Monte Carlo. We want to relax in those quiet places. So Sandy spoke about that, but the whole thing is based on a miracle. An egg hatches a bird with 7-foot wingspan that can fly at 30,000 feet and dive at 75 miles an hour. It's mind-boggling beyond our control, with 186 feathers and talons that can lift large prey. So the void I'm going to talk into now, the void lives in you. It's our decision. Sandy left us a seed, a tremendous seed. We were lucky to be born in a time with a visionary like this, that's had a camera that's inspired millions and millions of people, children, old people, universities, because they realized that if we can come together from China, from Australia, from Japan, from Singapore, there is no separation. We all come together on the same nest, and that celebration is love. 1 Corinthians 13, faith, hope, the greatest one being love. That is the change agent. So Sandy lives in all of you. She lives in where your focus is, your eyes, your heart, your ears. She's not gone. She's merely gone to another place. Misty, last year, the first of the hatchings, was named after Kathy Misterly, who was a moderator. She is not gone. None of them have gone. They have just left a void for us to replace with the seed that they have left. So Sandy lives with us. Without taking too much of the time, I could go on all day talking about Sandy. My words can never do her justice, but your heart can sow the seed. I want you to take this away. She was a rare, amazing human being that if you just spend some time sowing, even with the ecosystem we're trying to save, if 100,000 people in a $7 latte is $7 million. It's the small seed that created this camera, but it's the seed as small as a mustard seed that moves a mountain. God uses small things to do great things. He uses eggs to bring a bird he talks about 33 times that has a 7-foot wingspan. The most powerful things are small, but they live in each one of you. It lives in your heart, your eyes, and your ears. In every dusk and dawn chortle, you have the power to be change agents. You have the power to be Sandy. So my pledge to us is, let's keep Sandy alive. Let's keep her in our hearts and minds. Let's share her with everybody we know. We honor you and we love you, Sandy, today. In your name, God bless you.
Sandy made an impact around the world, as we all know, a greater impact than here locally in the Big Bear Valley. We are honored to have the mayor of Big Bear Lake, Randal Putz, here. My privilege to introduce to you the Honorable Randal Putz.
Good morning. Today we gather to honor and remember Sandy Steers, a woman whose love for nature touched countless lives in our community and far beyond. Many people know Sandy as the driving force behind the Big Bear Wildlands, a project that allowed people around the world to witness the beauty, wonder, and fragility of life in our mountains. Through her efforts, generations of people were introduced to the eagles that have become such an important symbol of Big Bear and of the wild places we cherish. She was also an artist, a healer, and a dear friend to so many. I came to know Sandy through our shared interest in nature and conservation. While we didn't always agree on every issue, I came to deeply respect her. There was something very pure about Sandy. She cared about the essential things. She loved this place. She loved its wildlife. She cared deeply about protecting what made our mountain community special. One conversation I remember well was a discussion we had about the North Shore Fuel Reduction Project. Sandy shared her frustration with the bureaucracy surrounding the project and concerns about how it would affect the natural environment she cared so much about. I, for my part, shared my concerns about the safety of our community and the need to reduce wildfire risk. We saw the issue from different perspectives, but what stayed with me was not our disagreement. It was the respect. It was the willingness to listen. It was the understanding that two people can share the same love for a place and still arrive at different conclusions about how to best protect it. That capacity is increasingly rare. Sandy possessed it naturally. In a world that often encourages us to see opponents where there are none, Sandy reminded us that thoughtful disagreement can coexist with kindness, respect, and common purpose. She made space for conversation. She made space for understanding. Most of all, Sandy loved the living things around us, the winged creatures soaring above our forests, the crawling creatures beneath our feet, the animals that roam our mountains, the life that flourishes in and around Big Bear Lake. She saw value in all of it and dedicated herself to protecting it. Her legacy lives on not only through the nest cam and the conservation work she championed, but through the countless people she inspired to slow down, pay attention, and appreciate the natural world. We need more people like Sandy in this world, people who care deeply, people who stand up for what they believe, people who listen, people who love nature not for just what it can give us, but simply because it deserves to be loved. I am grateful to have known her. I'm grateful for the conversations we shared, and I'm grateful for the example she leaves behind. May we honor Sandy's memory by caring for this place, caring for one another, and never losing our sense of wonder for the natural world she loved so dearly.
The message of Friends of Big Bear Valley and the message that Sandy wanted to spread to the world only happens through our friends in the media. We have with us today, to speak to you now, a distinguished reporter for CBS LA, Joy Benedict. Joy.
Well, it is a beautiful day to be out here, and I'm sure Sandy would have loved it. And I think she is here with us today. You know, I've been thinking a lot about Sandy since she passed away, and since I was asked to come and speak with all of you today. And the thing that always struck me about Sandy was the sparkle in her eye and her love of the Eagles when she spoke about them. I mean, she just lit up. But Sandy wasn't someone who craved the public eye. She wasn't someone who wanted to talk about anything other than the Eagles. And even when she spoke out at different community events and different projects, she was kind of unassuming until she got up and spoke. And when she did, you realized that she was a force to be reckoned with. She was small in stature, but she was big in meaning and big in voice. And that is what made her so impactful to this community, and also, of course, to her beloved Eagles. And I think it was that calm confidence that she had that really sucked me in, that just little bit of mystery while still screaming that loyalty to her community, be it human or, quite frankly, feathered, as we all know. But I first met Sandy about 10 years ago when I came to Fawnskin to do my first story on Jackie. And as the foundation had mounted that first Eagle camera there in the nest. And it really invited the world to see what was taking place. And then, like so many of you, I just kept coming back. And Sandy was always ready with her telescope. And of course, a story to tell about where those Eagles were in their process and their lifespan. You know, after the pandemic and we all sort of started Zooming more, other stations, I won't name them, but they would just take a Zoom. And my boss would say, just do a Zoom. And I said, oh no, I am driving 3 hours from Los Angeles because I want to see Sandy. And that's just the truth. But like, this is a community and there's some stories that just can't be told through technology. And I'm a firm believer that nature was one of them. But I gotta be honest, it was Sandy that made me make that drive every single time. And I am so glad that I did, not only because I enjoyed the scenery, but because I wanted to give her a hug and I wanted to say hello. I don't know how much of her history you guys know, but I feel like a part of Sandy's story is, of course, the Eagle story. And I've heard it so many times every time I interviewed her, and I never tired of it. And I feel like a part of that is important for me to tell now. And Sandy started bird watching at Dana Point Park about 20 years ago. It's just a couple of blocks from her home there in Fawnskin. And the Forest Service saw her out there with her binoculars at the time, and they said, hey, have you seen the Eagles? And they asked her to keep an eye out. And as we know, she did. At that time, though, it was Ricky and Lucy that were in the nest. And she would say she was just obsessed when she saw them lay the first eggs. And she saw that first chick. And one of those first chicks, of course, is the chick we know. It's Jackie. But what you may not know, and what I just learned, is that Jackie was actually Jack. Did you guys know that? When Jack first came out, they named that chick after Jack Lubecki, who was another person who came up here and counted the Eagles here in Big Bear Valley many years ago. But as little Jack got bigger and bigger, they realized Jack was in fact Jackie. And so that is how we got Jackie. And Jack Lubecki's family is here today, and they told me that story, and I felt like it was important to get in there. But Jackie, of course, then grew up. Jackie left the nest, and then Jackie came back. But when Jackie came back, as Sandy would like to say, Jackie came back with a lover. And that lover was Mr. B. I don't know how many of you remember Mr. B, but Mr. B and Jackie had 2 chicks in 2017. And then, of course, flew along Shelley. And Sandy would love to tell the story of the love story of Jackie and Shadow. Eagles typically made for life. And Sandy would say Shadow took one look at Jackie and realized that Mr. B just simply had to go. that he would keep coming around the nest, sniffing around until old Mr. B finally flew away one day, and that is when Shadow swooped in. You see, it was always Jackie's house, that nest, and she wasn't going anywhere. So she left Mr. B for a younger man. So in 2019, Shadow was in the nest, and that's when the new cameras went up, courtesy of the fundraising of Friends of Big Bear Valley. And those are the cameras that we see and we know very well, as there's 2 of them. So since then, we have really started to watch Jackie and Shadow fight and dig up, lay eggs, unfortunately lose them, raise those chicks, and then see them fly away as they're supposed to. I think we all have empty nest syndrome anytime that happens, including Sandy. But no one was excited to see the growing family more than Sandy. She had both. I remember one time she was literally crying with excitement in 2024 when those 3 chicks hatched. And of course, she made me cry too. And then, of course, we did it on national television because why not? If it excites everybody. But it was just such a very powerful moment. But as much as I spoke with Sandy over the years about her beloved eagles, when I asked her about her personal life, she kind of deflected. She'd say things like, I'm still waiting for my shadow. And I'd say, so am I. And we'd laugh and we'd move on. But after she died, I wish I would have pried a little more out of this woman that we all loved. I wish I would have shared a little more of myself. I last interviewed Sandy in September of 2025. She looked a little tired and she looked thin, but I didn't say anything. And honestly, I wish I would have. And then on January 26th, when Jackie laid her first egg of the season, I called and I texted her and she didn't answer. But you know what? I drove up here anyway. Because in 10 years, she has never not answered on a day an egg was laid. And when I didn't get her that day, I knew that something was really wrong. And of course, she died 2 weeks after that. The thing about death is, when someone dies, it is never the conversations with them that haunt us. It is always the words that were left unsaid. And I can't help but mourn the conversations that I did not get to have with this woman. I never knew Sandy was a cancer survivor. I never knew her cancer came back. But maybe in 2019, when we chatted and she asked me how I was, maybe if I would have told her that my father was dying of cancer, that she would have shared some of her journey with me. But I did not. Maybe in 2018, instead of cracking a joke about how everything was fine in my life, I should have told her that my first IVF treatment failed. Or again in 2019, or again in 2025, when I had to realize that I would never be a mom. Maybe if I would have told her, she would have shared with me how this smart, amazing woman ended up seemingly alone as well. I tell you this because as we go about our day with the pleasantries and hopefully kindness, we also miss the beauty of life. And the truth is that no one's life is perfect. No one's journey on this earth is without loss. So we shouldn't feel like we cannot share our loss with those in our community. We are a community, and Sandy was a part of my community. Yet I didn't know her story, and that makes me very, very sad. Because maybe if I would have shared more, she would have shared what she was going through. Maybe I could have let her know how much her chats meant to me. But I know many of you knew parts of Sandy's story that I did not, and I am glad and grateful that she had all of you. I came up here the day after she died, and I talked to her neighbors who went to the park. And you know, all the times I came up here, all the years over the last decade, I could only see Jackie and Shadow through binoculars, kind of up in the nest, maybe moving around. Maybe they were flying, but it was really far in the distance. But that day she died, that day after, that morning that I was here, Jackie and Shadow were both out there. They were over Dana Point Park, and they just flew and they flew and they flew. And they were so close to that park. And we got the best video of them that we had ever gotten in 10 years. And their flying show lasted more than 10 minutes. It was absolutely amazing. And as in awe as I was, there was a small part of me that hoped that she was finally flying with them, that she was finally free. And as hard as it is to say goodbye to someone we know, be it a neighbor on our morning walks, someone we see at the post office, a family member, or a friend, as hard as it is to move on and say goodbye, it is important to remember that grief is for the living. Sandy is not grieving. She is not in pain. She is not fighting her second bout of cancer that, quite frankly, none of us even knew about. And I believe that those that we lose are always with us. They will send us the signs. We just have to look for them. And I truly believe on that February day, those eagles were sent from Sandy. And we owe it to her for her devotion and dedication that she put into this community to keep up her fight for the eagles, for her this area, and for their chance to be free and to fly. And I hope we all know that Sandy is flying with them. So I say, fly high, Sandy, fly high.
Our next speaker is Dr. Tim Krantz. Tim is a longtime friend of Sandy's, the Friends of Big Bear Valley, of Big Bear Valley itself. He is a distinguished scientist, and please welcome Dr. Tim Krantz.
What a beautiful day. I'm expecting Jackie and Shadow to show up any minute, so keep your eyes open. But my name's Tim, and I first came to Big Bear and got to know the bald eagles back in the late 1970s, and was fortunate to work with Kimball Garrett and Michael Coffey and the Forest Service folks to develop the very first wintering bald eagle censuses up here, starting in 1979-80. And those have gone on over the years. At first, we would name the pairs of bald eagles that were around the valley after famous movie stars. So there was George and Gracie, after George Allen, Frank and Nancy, and of course, Ricky and Lucy. And these adult bald eagle pairs started to do stick nests in the valley, but never actually laid any eggs in them or finished those nests until finally we had Ricky and Lucy establish a firm nest and lay eggs and raise chicks, starting in the 2010s or so. I first met Sandy in the early 2000s. She hadn't moved up here, but just recently, and it was on a wintering bald eagle census. And so we met and convened over at the ranger station and broke up into observation groups, and she was in my group. And we went around, and I was impressed at how quickly she mastered the details of identifying a 1-year-old, a 2, 3, 4-year-old, or a full adult bald eagle, right? And those of us that have kind of worked with them over the years, you get to know those particular characteristics. For her, it was a natural, and it was just, she was immediately taken by the birds, or at least, or yeah, I would say taken by the birds. Sandy and I shared a common spiritual basis where we believe in Mother Nature. I call her Gaia, other people God, but our higher power, Earth herself, would assign us. We were her troopers, we were her soldiers, and if she gave us an assignment, it was our duty to fulfill it, right? And so Sandy and I shared this, that we were working for nature herself, and that we were her foot soldiers, her stewards. And so when in the early 2000, or like around 2012, 13, there was a development that happened over on the North Shore near Dana Point called Marina Point. It had been in the works for 20 years at that time, and the developer had actually not obtained his permits, but went ahead and started to clear cut the trees, cut them down, filled dirt on the meadow plants there, and excavated a marina that's still there to this day, if you look at Marina Point. All of this without any permits whatsoever. And so the Center for Biological Diversity took it on and sued the developer at the time and brought up Sandy and myself as expert witnesses to testify on behalf of the Bald Eagles against this development. And so we go down to federal court. This is for violations of the Clean Water Act, and they had not done any permits whatsoever to go ahead, and they were dredging out the lake. And so it's being held in federal court down in Los Angeles. Sandy is dressed in a light pink skirt and dress, looking, you know, Sandy, just a total sweetheart. She looked like everyone's sweetest grandmother. And so she goes and she's wearing this pink dress and she's got her beautiful smile, very sweet smile. And she goes into the courtroom and I mean, how can you possibly try to interrogate someone like your grandmother, right? And so she completely judo chopped the defense's legal team. They didn't know how to deal with her. Here's this sweet woman, and yet she ripped them up. She was factual. She was to the point. She actually just tore them down, and you could see the judge kind of smirking in the background like, oh my goodness. But she just totally did such a beautiful job of speaking out on behalf of the Bald Eagles. And at the end of the day, the judge ruled against the development. They were stopped for not having any permits and not doing their homework. And he was fined $1.3 million for reparations that still need to be done. But needless to say, Sandy was a real go-to when you didn't want to cross her, when it came between you and Mother Nature and her. So it's just marvelous to think back to those moments. She was very much of the school that this conservation work is never done. There's always something else. And it's our job to defend nature, because nature won't do it in the courtroom by herself. And so, and that's something that I think I certainly carry in my heart, and I hope that many of you also do. When it comes time to go to the public hearings, she would be there, right? Only a handful of people actually will take the time to do that, but she would do that. So one of the last times that I actually spent some time with her and went out with her, and I'll just digress for a moment to say, like Randy did, that Sandy and I we weren't always on the same page with regard to particular things going on in the valley, and whether that was good or bad or might be compromised for the sake of our common loved bald eagles and rare plants and other wildlife in Big Bear. But she and I would always put our arms around each other afterwards and accept the fact that we were both motivated in the same way. We might have differences of opinion, but at the bottom line, our hearts were both in the same place. And so it was great to work with her in that way. One of the last times that I did see her was the end of August here, and I invited her to go up with me to Bluff Lake to participate in a rewilding effort where the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, Birch Aquarium, and others had been raising these critically endangered mountain yellow-legged frogs in aquaria at the zoo, and we were going to do a big frog release up at Bluff Lake, just above us here in the valley. And so Sandy was so excited to go on this frog release. And so I picked her up at the Civic Center, and we drive up to Bluff Lake, and I have a couple pictures of her here that I'll put back over here on the Friends of Big Bear Valley booth. But here's a picture of Sandy after she, first picture, and of course it's super windy, but here she is with 3 containers, plastic containers full of baby frogs, and she's excitedly going to wade out into the lake. She had to put on waders that are up to her chest, and she's wading out into the icy water with a big smile on her face to release these critically endangered mountain yellow-legged frogs. And then the next picture is Sandy afterwards, and she's taken off the waders. She's icy cold. She does look a little fatigued, but she's got that huge Sandy smile on her face. Just all grin, ear to ear. And so that was my last memory of Sandy, and she was just it was like a little girl. Just her excitement in releasing these frogs, taking part in the biggest wild frog release ever in history. And they swim partly due to her own legacy work here in Big Bear. So with that, we miss you, Sandy, and yet you're here very much around us in everything that we see here in this valley. We miss you, we love you.
The people who probably know Sandy best are the people that work with her directly in Friends of Big Bear Valley, and we have a few of them here to speak to you briefly. But I get the privilege, thank you for pointing to your ear. That's great. I get the privilege of speaking first. And I get that privilege because my wife and I were the founders of Friends of Fawnskin, the predecessor organization to Friends of Big Bear Valley. That organization was founded on our lawn on a day in 2001 with a group, probably 10% of the people who are here today. And it was an organization founded around the idea that we wanted to preserve the natural beauty of the valley. Once the organization was formed, it became important to figure out who was actually going to run it day to day. And that's how we met and became friends with Sandy. We've known Sandy for 25 years, and I've worked with her, and my wife Pat has worked with her extensively over that 25-year period. And we're here to tell you that, as you know, for those of you that know her as well, what a unique individual she was. She was a seeker of truth in the world. She was uncompromising, yet practical. She was deeply devoted to the environment. She displayed fairness and decency to everyone. She showed respect and listened. And she was also deeply spiritual, not only about our surroundings, but about our place in this world. I want to share with you a poem that, to me, best exemplifies Sandy. It goes like this. She's in the sun, the wind, the rain. She's in the air you breathe with every breath you take. She sings a song of hope and cheer. There's no more pain. There's no more fear. You'll see her in the clouds above, hear her whisper words of love. You'll be together before too long. Until then, listen for her song. And you will listen and hear Sandy's song in the rustling leaves and the wind. You will hear Sandy's song in the birds, and you will see Sandy as the eagles fly overhead. Now, it's taken at least 2 people to replace Sandy as the co-executive directors of the Friends of Big Bear Valley, and we're honored to have Shelley Egan here first to speak to you. Shelley, please come forward.
So I met Sandy in 2016 when Liz, a board member of Friends of Big Bear Valley, saw that I knew how to do cookbooks, and Friends of Big Bear Valley needed someone to do some books for them on a volunteer basis. And so that's when I met Sandy. But Sandy sat me down in her living room and said, well, first of all, I want to make sure that you understand who it is you'll be doing the books for and what we represent and what we do. And she explained to me what Friends of Big Bear Valley was, in that we are a environmental group and that our goal is to protect habitats in the Big Bear Valley. And being a native of Big Bear Valley, I was born here, raised here, I love this valley. And so I immediately said, oh yeah, let's help preserve it. And so anyway, I've been working with Friends of Big Bear Valley ever since, and I got to know Sandy because we work together on a daily basis, or at least a 3 times a week basis, personally together. And the more I worked with her, the more I came to understand that she had very strong opinions and was willing to stand behind them and do what it took to promote her beliefs and her strong concerns for conservation primarily. I also learned that she's and I called her this, Sandy was a Disney princess. Not that she wore the gowns and stuff like that, but she fed the animals, she fed the birds, she invited them onto her porch, into her home, onto her hand. And I learned that about her. I also learned that she had wanted to be a race car driver. And I found that out in sitting next to her in her Miata when we'd be going to a function where we were giving information about Friends of Big Bear Valley and our goals and dreams. And she drove like a race car driver. But that was something we had in common. My dad was a amateur race car driver, and he taught me how to drive, and I kind of drive like a race car driver too, so that was fine. We didn't agree on everything, but we did come to love each other. I loved her dearly, and I will miss her. And one of the last things that I was able to say to her at the near end of her life was, don't worry, Sandy, we've got this. And that is something that all of us together will do. We will continue to protect the nature that is Big Bear, that is in Big Bear. Together, all of us, with her flying above us in the sky and inspiring us. Thank you.
Co-executive director to fill Sandy's shoes is Teri Ashmore. Teri, please come forward.
She brought up the race car driver thing. I rode with Sandy in a car once. My life flashed before my eyes, and I never did it again. That was it. So anyways, I'm glad to see you all came out to honor and celebrate Sandy today. My first experience with her was not even meeting her, but I joined the naming contest, ran in the naming contest in 2019. That's when we had Simba and Cookie. So the names came out, the kids voted on it. And about 3 months later, I got an email from Sandy with the certificate. I looked at my husband and I said, wow, I think this lady needs some help. It's been 3 months. So I thought about reaching out and volunteering, but life happened and that, I didn't contact her. But 2 months after that, the newsletter came out and Sandy needed help. So I answered the call, came up here and met Sandy, and we talked about the Eagles. And I was actually going to work as being an administrative assistant. And she said, no, I want you to be my Eagle lady after we talked. So we hugged it out, and I've been with Sandy ever since. Not a surprise that everybody said Sandy was a little lady with a large presence, and she was. And her love for critters, from the largest of mammals to the smallest of insects, was unmeasurable. Her love for nature was the same. From every tree, shrub, flower, even weeds. She loved them all. We were in a meeting one time down here in the village on an outside patio. It was about the FOBBV website. And I'm looking at Sandy. I can see we're losing her. I don't know why we're losing her, but her attention is gone. She got up and walked away. She came back to her seat with the tiniest little caterpillar on her hand. She sat there while we were all talking, and she just watched it, walking around her hand, big smile on her face, loving it, and pretty soon she went and put it down in the planter with the flowers. Another one of her favorite stories, and I love this one, she loved animals so much, and one day she saw a coyote out in her front yard looking to take care of a bunny rabbit. She said she went running out of the house in her nightgown, bare feet, chasing a coyote down the street. And I told her, I said, Sandy, he needs to eat too. She said, I'm well aware of that. He can eat somebody else's bunny, not mine. So, yes, Sandy was a very big presence. Not often, but we did have arguments. We argued like sisters, and 98% of the time Sandy won. But that's okay. I was okay with that. What I would like to do is end with this, and this will be hard for me. About 2.5 weeks before she passed, she sent me a text. We had a little text back and forth. She just texted me out of the blue and said, I love, love, love these eagles as much as ever, with 3 exclamation points. At this point, she was kind of in bed. She couldn't do much, so she was down. I asked if she got to watch them often. She said yes, continuously, for the first time ever, and I'm loving it. And then she said, I just love Jackie. I had to say that. It comes out of my thoughts every 10 seconds. Shadow is almost the same, but Jackie had my heart first. I am so thankful that Sandy had that time to spend nonstop with her eagles and enjoy them, because she was always busy out running around and doing everything else. So I'm very thankful that she had that moment with them. Thank you so much.
Jenny Voisard is our media manager. And Jenny, would you like to come up and say a few words?
I had to follow Sandy once, so I had to drive my car behind Sandy's car. And actually, my husband was driving, and our Sabi said, I'm not driving, and he made me switch so that I had to follow Sandy. And we raced around setting up signs at night for outdoor adventure days, and I'll never forget that. And the way that she would drive around, I knew she had racer in her because of how she would handle the turns in the corners. So this is something that Sandy wrote that no one's ever heard before. I had never seen a picture of a bald eagle chick, but here was a real live one, sitting in a giant nest atop a dead tree over 1/2 mile away, and I was watching through a bird spotting scope. The fuzzy white ball of downy fluff did not just lay there. The chick bounced around, investigating every part of the nest of intertwined sticks and twigs. It hopped up and down, flapping its tiny wings. It stood up and opened its mouth as a big adult flew in and landed on the edge of the nest. And so it began. Sandy's steers was like the plants she protected, rare, unique, and found nowhere else in the world. She was also like the eagle, smart, strong, and completely secure in who she was. Sandy was calm and balanced in chaos. She loved all creatures, great and small. Sandy was a true Renaissance woman. She was wise beyond our universe, and her special spirit and unique energy is alive and flowing around and through us. I would like to share Sandy's top 10 life lessons with you all today. Number 10, be determined, even in the face of obstacles. Number 9, be curious, adventurous, and open to learning. Number 8, dedication to our commitments should be rewarding and fun. Number 7, feeling our emotions does not make us weaker. It builds strength and resilience. Number 6, the experience is the journey. Don't let the bumps spoil it. We should focus our energy towards finding solutions and moving on. Number 5, remember to find joy and fun as we travel through life rather than getting bogged down with the daily grind. Number 4, be like the eagle and fearlessly be all of who we are in our full authenticity, no matter what anyone else thinks. Number 3, love is the primary ingredient to a happy life, whether it is love of other beings or love of life itself. Number 2, everything is a gift. The more we let go of old beliefs about what is possible or not possible, the more pleasant surprises the universe can deliver into our lives. Number 1, give back to nature. Its beauty inspires us, its pollinators feed us, its resources protect us. Honor it and yourselves. Thank you, Sandy, for giving us so many gifts and for sharing your wisdom, creativity, and love with us. You had a vision and mission, and nothing stood in your way. The love you have inspired has been life-changing for me, personally, and all of you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us and all of us through this season. And thank you for loving Jackie and Shadow and caring about what happens to them.
The head of our communications and media and education, communications and education program is Madison Keep. And Madison, would you come forward?
When I was asked if I had any desire to speak at Sandy's celebration, I knew I wanted to, but what do you say about a woman like her, right? She's just, everyone here is trying to summarize it in such a short amount of time. But when you knew her like we did, it just doesn't do it justice. I have worked with Sandy for 3 years. When I first started, my goal was to help with the education department, but she wanted me to start in the social media aspect and get a feel for the organization and our goals and everything that's associated with it. She was an amazing mentor that was so quick to answer any questions that I had during that time. Even though I was doing social media, she knew that my goal still remained to be in an education area and help her grow that. People would find out I worked with FOBBV, and they would ask me, the first thing they would want to know is, what is Sandy like? And I was always eager to tell her that she wants whatever you want, and she will help you do anything to achieve that goal. So after I had gotten into the organization and gotten my bearings, we started to create the education department. And over the past 2 years, we have grown to something that she was so proud of, so excited about. Talking to the students was one of her favorite things to do. She loved their eagerness, their innocence, their willingness to help in whatever way possible. She would check in almost daily to see if there were any silly questions that the little kids had asked that made us smile and laugh. And because of her and her guidance and her support, our team this year spoke to almost 15,000 students. And that's all because of her. After that first year, and we were working so closely with education, that mentorship quickly became became a friendship. I have 3 kids, 3 and under, and it is very busy in my household, but they were always welcome. Every Zoom call, every phone call, every type of communication. She was like their grandma. She was always so excited to hear about their updates and what was happening in their lives. And there's this one very vivid memory that I was holding my infant daughter. We were talking on the phone, and she was just doing her babbling. And I apologized. She was kind of loud. And Sandy said to never apologize, because hearing my daughter was one of the favorite highlights of any conversation we ever had. She just had such a big heart that words can't do it justice. She would also just very randomly call at very unexpected times that was unprepared. Would be at dinner and my husband's here and I'd be like, oh, Sandy's calling me, and we just know that it was Sandy time. And I still expect to see that phone call come across, and it's hard to know that that's never going to happen again. It has been an honor to be a part of Sandy's story. Her memory is going to live on in all of our hearts and all of our minds. And we can only do our best to continue the legacy that she has started. So thank you all for coming and being here with us today, whether you're here in person or watching virtually. The support is everything to us. So thank you.
We're honored to have Sandy's brother and sister with us. Jan Fisher, Kent Thornberry, would you mind coming up? Bring your beloveds with you if you want. Senator Ochoa Bogh's office with us. Will Boyd is here, and Will has a special presentation to make in honor of Sandy and for her family. Will?
Thank you. Good afternoon, all. My name is Will. I'm the Deputy District Director for Senator Rosalisi Ochoa Bogh. She is the State Senator for District 19, which is most of the Inland Empire, including Big Bear. I thought I was just going to give you all a letter. I don't have anything prepared, but they gave me 15 minutes. So in the spirit of Jackie and Shadow, I'm just going to wing it. I have a letter here, and it's an adjournment in memory of her. And what it symbolizes is honoring her legacy on the Senate floor, and it enters that into official record. So this is for individuals who have a lasting impact on their community, and that's something that Sandy did have. And I would say that it's probably much more than just her immediate community, right? This is international. So unless you're saying that the community is the world, then yes, her impact was on her community. And you know, what she did, what she created is amazing. She turned Jackie and Shadow into a symbol. And symbols are important. That's our identity, right? So that's why, like, when people desecrate the symbol of the flag, you know, it activates a visceral reaction because it's as if somebody's attacking your identity. And whether Sandy understood this or not, she got people to care, to identify with Jackie and Shadow, which helps conservation efforts. And that's something that we've struggled with for decades, right? To get people to care about their environment. And Sandy was able to do that through Jackie and Shadow. She got the world to take on that stewardship. So we are honored, and the Senator was honored to endure in her memory. And this is the letter signifying that. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. So Jan and Kent have shared the letter from the state senator with us. And it's almost a scroll, and it reads as follows. The California State Senate on April 27th, 2026, adjourned in memory of Sandy Spears. On behalf of the California Senate, may I express our deepest sympathy, and it's signed by Senator Bogh. This is for you and your family.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.